Recognize this guy?
Yes, I do.
That's him?
That's the officer that put me over.
Detroit Police Sergeant William Ziola is the kind of cop you don't forget.
He was the most aggressive. It was like a pit bull with a muzzle.
Something is wrong. Something is definitely wrong. Obvious there's no scrutiny of his behavior.
He a gangster with a badge.
Since he joined the force, Officer Stephen Koo has repeatedly been accused of excessive force and using hostile and racist language. He's also accused of harassing people of color who say their biggest crime was being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Hey peeps, today we're diving into a serious issue that's been plaguing the Detroit Police Department. An investigation recently exposed how numerous Detroit police officers with extensive misconduct records managed to stay on the force with little scrutiny. I mean, we're talking about officers with dozens of complaints, lawsuits, and disciplinary actions just flying under the radar. One officer even had 85 separate disciplinary cases. It's shocking and honestly quite disturbing.
On the force today, 113 officers have tallied at least 30 citizen complaints. 58 have been sued at least 5 times, and 93 have been disciplined at least 10 times, with one officer racking up 85 separate cases of discipline alone. The data comes from an internal DPD database we obtained called the Management Awareness System. It was first put into place while the department was under federal oversight, and its purpose is to help flag problem officers and patterns of bad behavior. But in case after case after case that we've discovered, officers racked up significant allegations of misconduct while often receiving very little scrutiny or discipline.
Former Police Chief James Craig claimed they were holding officers accountable, but the reality painted a very different picture.
Do you believe that there are officers on the force today who shouldn't be?
Yes.
Much of the alleged officer misconduct we've reported on took place under former Chief James Craig, who retired over the summer to run for governor.
When there is an issue with an officer who crosses a line, that they're held accountable. I've demonstrated that, and we do it in a very transparent way.
But while he was chief, Craig actually resisted turning over the disciplinary records only after the mayor's office convinced him he had to. One of the most notable cases we discovered involved Sergeant Stephen Koo, who racked up 85 civilian complaints, repeatedly accused of racial profiling, using racist language, excessive force, and harassment. He was nearly fired in 2018 for being untruthful about firing his gun. But instead, he was promoted under Chief Craig, who we caught up with at a recent campaign event.
How does something like that happen, and should it have?
Well, I can tell you, that's a great point. Unfortunately, I'm limited at times.
Craig blamed police union contracts and the arbitration process, which allows a mediator to overrule department discipline. But in Sergeant Koo's case, he was seldom disciplined in the first place because the cases against him were repeatedly dismissed by commanders with no reason given.
Being myself an African American, I don't put much stock into the police force anymore.
There was a time when Jay Brown dreamt of becoming a Detroit cop, but that changed the day he came face to face with one.
I started opening my door to step out of my vehicle, and that's when the cop car came blazing up on me.
In broad daylight in September of 2015, Brown was pulling up to a rental property he helped manage near Fenkel and Greenfield when he says Officer Stephen Koo pulled up to him.
He told me not to move, asked me where the drugs are. Are there drugs in my vehicle? Are there drugs in the house that I'm approaching? What am I doing here? And I said, no, sir, I do not know what's going on. I'm just here to check on some rental property.
Nearly the whole time, he said Koo's gun was trained on his chest.
Still holding a gun on you after 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and I'm asking you, pleading with you, can you please lower your weapon?
He said Koo used profanity and was demeaning, that he searched his vehicle but found no drugs or stolen weapons. And before Koo left, according to the complaint, he wrote him a ticket for not wearing a seatbelt and then said this.
He just said, he's just another, if you feel that strongly about the color of my skin, you probably shouldn't be an officer in the city of Detroit.
Jay filed a citizen's complaint against Officer Koo, seen here on Facebook, that included allegations he used racist language and unnecessary force. Koo denied both. It was hardly the first time he'd been accused. DeAndre Reed and his brother were standing outside on the street where they live when Officer Koo and his partner pulled up.
We said no. They told us to lift up our shirts and do a complete circle so they could see our waistband. We complied.
He said Koo handcuffed him, searched him, then saw that DeAndre had an outstanding traffic warrant. It was then, according to the complaint, that Koo said this.
Thank my brother that I'm going to jail.
Use that word.
Yes. He said it like that's something that he always says. He was very confident in saying it.
Reed was jailed and then released. After he was, he filed a complaint against Koo with the city's Office of Chief Investigator. Reed and 3 witnesses said Koo used the N-word. The only person who didn't was Koo. The complaint was sustained, but Koo appealed and with no reason documented, his commanding officer later dismissed the charge. Even today, DPD couldn't tell us why.
This guy was promoted despite facing numerous allegations of racial profiling, excessive force, and harassment. Yep, that's right. Promoted. And then there's Sergeant Ziol with a staggering 93 complaints and 12 lawsuits against him.
He was the most aggressive. It was like a pit bull with a muzzle.
On the force for 25 years, Ziola was promoted just last year, which might surprise you when you learn that no officer on the force today has received more complaints from citizens than him, 93 and counting. And among those filed against him and his partners, you'll find recurring allegations of improper searches, unnecessary force, and harassment. Stanley Perkins has been pulled over by Ziola, and not just once or twice, he says.
I've been pulled over by him about 4 times.
The first back in 2016, just as he was leaving work.
And the first thing he said was, do you have any guns or drugs on you? And I'm just like, I'm just getting off work.
Perkins said Ziola searched his entire SUV without finding anything.
I mean, he was acting like straight up like a street guy.
Did he ever tell you why he pulled you over?
No, he didn't.
He was let go, but about 6 months later, he saw Ziola again. This time, he says the officer claimed it was over a bad headlight.
He snatched my door open, pulls me out the car again. I'm like, here we go.
Another search of his car again yielded nothing. Perkins was neither arrested nor charged, but after both run-ins, he filed complaints against Ziola, alleging he was being harassed. Both were closed without any discipline.
I think he thought I was a drug dealer. I'm a businessman, so I like nice cars. I buy nice cars because I work hard for it. So that doesn't mean I'm a drug dealer because I got a nice car.
I'll never forget that. Just because of the treatment of that officer.
Cass Birchfield was driving with his friend in Detroit when he says he was pulled over by Ziola and his partners with their guns drawn. The reason for the stop, he claims, a broken windshield.
Once the door was open, he got one cuff on and literally just pulled by the handcuff. When I got home, I had cuts on my wrist from the cuffs.
The most aggressive of the officers, he said, was Ziola, who searched his car and came up with nothing. But Birchfield still left with a ticket for that broken windshield. His complaint against Ziola did not result in discipline.
That's not how you treat someone on a traffic stop.
Ziola hasn't just been on the receiving end of complaints. Along with his partners, he's been sued at least 12 times throughout his career.
This lack of accountability has seriously eroded public trust in the department. But there's hope on the horizon. The new chief, James White, is taking action with a fresh approach to tackle this mess. He set up a risk management unit designed to identify and address troubling patterns of behavior among officers. This unit will analyze both sustained and even inconclusive allegations to catch issues early. Chief White admits the department had blind spots and aims for proactive intervention rather than just reacting to complaints. It's a positive step toward transparency and rebuilding public trust. The success of this unit will depend on its ability to pinpoint problematic behavior, implement interventions, and hold officers accountable. So, what's your take on this new plan? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more updates. Stay informed, stay empowered.